just gotten a note that this meeting is being recorded. We thank you again so much for being here. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please mute your mics to avoid background noise while our speakers are speaking. Do use the chat box if you'd like to comment to everyone or share your contact info with fellow attendees. You can actually click save to save the chat at the end. Please also use the chat box to submit your questions throughout the session to be answered at the end of the presentation. The meeting, like I said, will be recorded and available to everyone via the ILEA Napa Sonoma website. Okay. Sorry about that. We are pleased to have a great panel with us today, but before I get to that, I wanted to share, we have for ILEA Napa Sonoma a very special offer. We're calling it the Let's Get Back to Events Together offer. So for ILEA Napa Sonoma, we are offering $125 to any returning or new member who joins the ILEA Napa Sonoma chapter by June 30th. All you have to do is join on ILEAHub.com. After you join, send your receipt to info@ILEANapaSonoma.com and let us know where to mail the check, and we send you a rebate check. It's easy as that. If you're new, for added savings, new members can also use the promo code HUG ILEA and list any current ILEA member, so you can get $50 off the application fee. That's a savings of $175 if you're a new member. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Samantha Paul, who is our VP of Programs.
Thanks, Madeline. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you with us. We have a great turnout today because everyone loves to talk about their community. And we're super thrilled to have this dynamic team with us today to chat about that. We're going to kick it off with pretty simple, rather than read through a full bio for each of our panelists today. They're going to sort of self-introduce themselves. We want them to tell you who they are, the company they're with, and the organization they're representing today for this conversation around community. So I will flip it back to Madeline since she's already partially introduced herself, and then we'll turn it over to Kristen, Jamie, and Diana from there. So Madeline, if you want to finish out your intro.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Madeline Reed. Again, I am the ILEA Napa Sonoma president. I've been involved with ILEA for several years, also a WCSEP member and WIPA and NACE admirer. I work for Castello di Amoroso Winery. I am the director of events and hospitality here. And so excited to be here today with amazing professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Seaholm, and I'm the owner of the KS Experience. I am an event consultant and producer based out of the Bay Area, where I work with event professionals to alleviate pain points within their businesses. Furthermore, I am also currently serving as the president for the WIPA San Francisco Bay Area chapter, serving the greater Northern California region. And for those that are not yet familiar with WIPA, it stands for Wedding International Professionals Association. And our mission is to provide stellar education for event professionals, produce inspiring and engaging networking events, with our first in-person event taking place coming up on June 22nd, and to support and further improve ethical standards within the wedding industry. Echoing Madeline, I could not be more excited to be here with you all today. So thanks so much for having me.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Lagoida. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm super excited. I am currently one of the global IT strategists for Vinco, which is a full service boutique firm that focuses on overall IT strategy for companies of all industries. Ironically, though, 6 of the 8 strategists on the Vinco team came from the hospitality world, including myself, obviously. Our secret sauce is that very idea. We were essentially bringing the nature of hospitality into the IT world and providing different solutions for companies that are looking to modernize their overall IT performance. Today, I'm representing the Wine Country Special Event Professionals, or infamously known as WCSEP. We're a local networking group that started over 20 years ago, comprised of Napa and Sonoma Valley venues, and members are typically the catering and event managers who sell and service the events on site. And so our whole mission is to build partnerships between venues and creating a referral system and also offering education. So I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you.
Diana's trying to unmute for us. She'll be with us in just a second.
Okay, sorry about that. First time on Zoom on my phone. Technical issues today, but hi everyone. I love being here with all of these amazing women, and I am representing Silicon Valley NACE. I'm the current president, and also on the WIPA board as the director of education. I work for Napa Valley Linens, director of sales, so I'm all over the Bay Area slinging linens.
Thanks, everyone. And since you're unmuted, and ladies, you can feel free to stay unmuted if you'd like. But I will start with you, Diana, since you were last up, and just share with us why you wanted to be a part of the panel today in the discussion around strengthening your community.
Well, I've actually done a talk about networking about 3 different times. I did it twice for NACE and once for Tri-Valley Wedding Pros. And it was basically just out of my success with networking and how I got started in the business. So networking is near and dear to me. And it's a subject I'm passionate about. And I see how you can be successful just from networking and how important it is for your business. So whenever that subject comes up about community, and organizations, that's how I grew my business, and it worked for me. And I'd love to share, what worked for me with everybody else.
Awesome. Kristen, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, and as I imagine with many event professionals out there, I'm completely self-taught within the events industry. So being able to network with those driven, passionate, like-minded event professionals has always been key for me in my own success and to better drive myself and my services within the industry. So I've always found that networking and community, it's definitely vital to my success. And I think it's incredibly vital to all of our success as a whole. So I could talk about it all day long. So I'm super excited to be on this panel today.
And Jamie?
Yeah, my family and we moved up to the Bay Area about 4 years ago, and WCSEP and WIPA were huge in my networking and being able, the community really embraced me and was able to introduce me to all these new people. And without that, it would have been really hard for me to be selling Las Alcobas at the time. It's now something different, but just learning about the region, how to sell the region, how to do events in the region. So networking to me and these types of groups are so important. So feels good today.
Last but not least, Madeline.
Yeah, so I think this is one of Samantha's favorite terms, but it's so true that your network is your net worth, and being able to build on or build relationships with other, like Kristen said, like-minded event professionals is so important so that you can lean on each other and learn from each other. So I feel that your network is really everything that you have. When you need something or you need advice, you need to have a network that you can lean on.
So true. And thanks for using my line.
I was like, nobody else say it, please. It's so true.
Dates me a little bit, that term. And since you just finished up, I'm going to actually start with you for the next question. And that is just to tell us how you see the events industry, the community, specific to Napa and Sonoma. We'll touch on Bay Area and Northern California as a whole, but in Napa Sonoma, so from a network and industry perspective, how do you see community within our events community?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in this industry and primarily in Sonoma County, but you know, my parents were in the industry, and the community has always been strong here. However, over the past, I would say 5 years, because of fires and most recently, obviously, because of COVID, I do feel like our community has come together and become stronger as well. Previously, I do think that, or I think that sometimes we can work in silos. So even different organizations like ILEA or WCSEP or WIPA, in the past, we kind of worked in silos and on things that worked for our specific organizations only. But recently, I feel that we've moved a little bit away from that actually, and have worked on a more cohesive and unified front to make sure that we're actually serving the community as a whole and not just our members. And I think that today is kind of a great example of that, us sharing our experiences together and what works, and you know, just perpetuating a united community. So I see us really working together, and like we never have before this last year and into this year as well.
Thank you. And Jamie, I know I've heard you speak passionately about this, so why don't you share with us?
Absolutely. And we've talked about this. Madeline and I have talked about this a lot, actually, that, you know, specifically the difference of organizations. You know, WCSEP has always been, you know, this networking group. Yes, it's been around a really long time, but, you know, we are so thrilled to have a seat at this amazing table and be a part of the community, because we are such a huge part of that community. And when I say community, I'm specifically, you know, speaking about the wine country region. And, you know, even also the difference of Napa and Sonoma valleys. You know, in historically, it's always been, okay, we're selling Napa or we're selling Sonoma, but that's certainly not the case. You know, we're selling wine country as a region. And so in order to be successful at that, when we're competing with other regions like Aspen or, you know, even New York or the South or what have you, and Southern California, it makes perfect sense that we want to strengthen that community of wine country as a whole. And that's one of the, you know, key components of WCSEP is really bringing everyone together. And the fact that we're able to communicate and collaborate with all these other organizations in the area, it just strengthens everything even more. So yes, I'm very passionate about that.
And Kristen and Diana, I know you are as well. And so I'm going to ask you to talk to it and kind of expand beyond our Napa Sonoma and more towards the Bay Area, Northern California region as a whole. And tell us about, you know, like that community sentiment and that network that we have across the Bay Area. And I'll start with you, Kristen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we all know, the greater Bay Area is vast, you know, with a lot of truly impressive event professionals out here. With that, we aren't as segmented to our specific regions anymore. We now have event professionals from Sacramento driving down to Carmel and Big Sur, vice versa, and everything in between. So I think there's an amazing opportunity for everyone. And I love seeing our industry and network continue to grow stronger and stronger. And breaking down those barriers of only being able to work where they live. As long as they're willing to travel and put in the work to familiarize themselves with the region and the people out in that area, the more the merrier. So I've seen, you know, to Madeline's point, over the last couple of years, I've also seen a lot of this really kind of, you know, these barriers break down and people be able to kind of, you know, explore different areas and network with people outside of just, you know, their specific city. And it's been really cool. You know, we've all been able to meet some really amazing people just by kind of going out of our comfort zones. And I think there's something really special about that.
Anything you want to add there, Diana?
Well, Kristen did a really good job. But yeah, I mean, you know, in my industry with linens, you know, we go anywhere from, you know, Napa to Carmel. And so I run the gamut of all the different organizations, and the crossover is very vast as far as, you know, and then we have like the Tri-Valley here in the Bay Area, which is another little wine country. So, and a lot of people from the South Bay go there for their weddings. So it definitely is a lot of crossing of paths. And like Kristen said about people from as far as Sacramento driving to Carmel to do weddings. I see this was happening when you're on your phone. Where was I? Oh, with Carmel, you know, we have, you know, the people from Sacramento going there, and then the people that are going to Livermore area to the Tri-Valley. That's almost becoming a little destination wedding too, because it's a little less affordable than Tri-Valley. So there's all these little pockets of areas, and all the different organizations cross over all the time. So it's just great to connect with all the different organizations and support one another for sure.
Awesome. So a couple more questions we have for you, and then we are going to open it up to live Q&A. And I might have just thought about a question. I'm going to throw you a curveball here soon, but maybe each of you can share with us, and you can jump in if you want to go first, or I can call on one of you. But what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you see within the industry to strengthen our community or our networks? You know, what are some tactics or challenges? How do we support one another? So anything that you want to share along those lines for that challenge or opportunity our industry has.
I mean, I'll go.
I'll go after Jamie.
Okay. I always love to tell this anecdote because I think it definitely, it resonates with, you know, the WCSEP group and other groups as well. But way back, and one of our founding members, Gaspar, who I'm sure you're all very familiar with, when WCSEP started, there was a group that had reached out to about 15 to, I think it's 15 or 16 wineries and or venues, and they were holding the same date for their program at all 15 venues. And it was kind of like a long time that they were holding that date. And finally, some people had been talking over a glass of wine, most likely. And they said, well, wait a minute, I'm holding that date for that group too. And I'm holding that date too. And so they pulled together the resources, reached out to the group and said, hey, you're holding, you know, 15 of us, and we know you're only going to go with one. Maybe you're going with another destination, you know, can you at least let us know? And so then the next day, I think they ended up picking one, and all the other holds were released. And so I like to tell that story because it's super important, that whole sense of the strength of the network. So if I know that there's a couple that's, and Kristen and I know this very well, because when she was at Solage and you know, we had that connection of, hey, so-and-so, I just did a site tour for, they're headed to you next. Here are some details about them. And I think that is so important, because you're getting a heads up, you know what to be prepared for, you know what their hot button issues are, speaking from a couple, you know, weddings perspective, but even corporate as well. If I knew that a group was not going to work out at Las Alcobas, it just didn't work from a logistical standpoint, but I know 5 other venues in my network through WCSEP or WIPA or what have you, ILEA, you know, that are going to work better, I'm going to give that program manager or, you know, that event planner those venues, because, hey, I would rather see it here in wine country and the money come here than go somewhere else. So, you know, that to me, I think is a huge strength, followed up from a challenge, that we can really work among each other and you know, have that referral base and information share.
I have something to add. What I find very fulfilling is to be the connector. So not necessarily going to a networking event and thinking, who's my next client? Who am I going to connect with today? But if I can introduce a couple people to each other that I know that they are looking for a new planner, a new photographer, whatever it may be, and if I could connect those two people, that just thrills me. And guess what? They will always remember me because they've built a great relationship and they remember who introduced them. So I always say, don't be selfish, you know, and be that connector. And it doesn't have to be within your own organization. If you know somebody that in a different organization, you know, reach out to the other organizations and be the connector that way. And people really appreciate the connections.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say as well, is that, you know, every single one of us on this call, no matter what your discipline is, whether you're, you know, venue or or VinCo, you're in IT, we are all salespeople, right?
Right.
We execute events, but we're all salespeople. It's important not to be that selfish salesperson and to kind of step outside of your personal business needs. Of course, we all need to hit certain numbers and make sales, but step outside of that and think what's best for the client. And also with the client, you know, if you hand them over, if I hand them to you, Diana, because I know that their needs are going to be best met by your services, like you said, they're always going to remember that. And they, and you'll remember that. And
Right.
you will refer someone to me. And so,
Exactly.
and that's what I think is most important. When Jamie was working on the venue side, I think there were times where I was like, hey, can you do a site visit for, you know, X, Y, and Z? Just FYI, this is all the information that I know. And so then she goes in and she's prepared and she's going to do the exact same thing for me when she has a referral. So that's kind of tying it back into that saying, your network is your net worth, because when you step outside of your personal or, you know, your sales numbers that you have to hit, you can really actually make more sales overall.
Right.
Yeah, that paying it forward and just really kind of taking yourself out of the equation and thinking what's best for the client or what's best for the community, in the sense of, you know, when I was at venues, it's like, if they don't get married at my venue, then they weren't meant for my venue, you know, and if they got married somewhere else, then that's where they were meant to be. And so it was never necessarily a sales loss. It just, they weren't the right couple at the right time for my place. And the more that I can recommend somewhere else for them and connect them with someone else and help them along the way, the more it's going to pay forward to me in a different lead at a different time.
Yeah.
Really great insights. The question I was going to curveball you guys with that got asked in the chat, so I'm going to finish with that one after this next question. So before we get to that last one and before we open to Q&A, let's chat about the impact of the pandemic. Obviously, we know there are continued challenges. We are hearing what's coming on June 15th for our area. We know that there is staffing and labor shortages. So we know some of those major challenges. ILEA just did a program actually where we chatted with a lot of different vendor groups on that. But let's talk about the impact of the pandemic. And everybody's busy as we get back to business as some version of normal. Some are more impacted than others. And as some struggle to meet client demands and wanting to be a good partner to fellow industry professionals. Anything that you want to share along those lines, or any insights you have as to what you've already started to see has worked well as you try and partner with fellow industry professionals? And Madeline, I'll start with you.
Oh, perfect. I'm like, can I say something? So so there are many challenges that we face coming back to this. Like, I feel like the dam has just opened, or the floodgates or whatever, and we're all like, oh, events are happening, and you know, and anything goes after June 15th. So we are all wildly busy and I think stretched very thin and also very stressed out. We had a panel recently where we talked to different industry professionals, so like catering and you know, florists and things like that. And I think what I took out of that is understanding what the challenges are with each discipline. So with catering or with, you know, a florist, I found out there's an international flower shortage. Who knew? I had no idea. So these florists are having demand issues, aren't able to fulfill clients' needs, or you know, even the types of flowers aren't available. And so knowing those types of things, or like caterers are having a really hard time staffing, or having a hard time with venues sticking to their rules. So I think that communicating with your vendors and making sure that everyone is on the same team, or vendors, and understanding the challenges that are, that they face is really important. So going in, knowing that a florist can't get peonies right now, like they just can't unless they buy fake ones, right? Knowing that, I'm not going to sell that to a client. What I'm going to tell to a client is, I understand your vision, and we will do something that aligns with your vision, to the best of our abilities, so that I'm not putting a vendor in a bad position. So knowing what other people's challenges are is just really important right now, and making sure everyone is on the same page.
You want me to? I'll go.
Yeah, perfect.
The challenge that I'm finding, speaking of stretched too thin, because most of the time I'm calling on venues, hotels, working with planners, florists, caterers. Those are my clients more than the couples. And what I'm finding is, because everyone's just getting back to work, first of all, it's getting to know who is now at what venue. It's like playing chess or checkers. They move from this place to this place. So it's finding them. And it's also if they have time to meet with me. And I'm not going to be that person that's going to be annoying and demand to be seen when they're stretched so thin. So I'm trying to get creative with, maybe we could do a quick little Zoom call. Let me know when you're available and I'll be there. So it's definitely not as easy to get the appointments right now for me. And I just have to be patient with that. But with that being said, everybody's scrambling with all these last minute things. I'm just getting emails with orders, which is a good thing. But I want to see people and get in their face again like I used to. And I think that's just going to take a little time to get going for me, at least.
I'll go. It's, it's really interesting. And Madeline had put it in the chat about being patient. And that is so true right now, because there are people, what we've discovered through our, WCSEP meetings the last couple months is that there's one person that is doing the job of 5 people. Mm-hmm. And, you're trying to get back to inquiries and you're trying to answer all these questions. And on top of the normal event logistical questions you're also getting the COVID questions. And so that's a lot, it's definitely a lot. And, one of the things that I've learned just with being with Vinco, for the last 6 months roughly, is the modernization of the events world, and how companies, specifically event venues and wineries and such, are leveraging technology to be better post-pandemic world, right? And so, one of the huge things is customer service and customer success. And so, if you have the right technology in place, you're going to be able to focus more and have the ability to be flexible and nimble. Okay. So just taking that whole idea. But when I am talking to a lot of our venues that are a part of WCSEP, it's the one thing that they're asking for is patience. And so I'm so glad Madeline put that in the chat. And we're talking about that because, you're reaching out to somebody that is wearing a lot of different hats, and, a lot of that is providing education to the actual client and the customer and saying, hey, I'm super busy right now, but you are a priority. Let me schedule some time. Are you available later on this afternoon at this time? And just saying that is okay. I feel like when I was talking to a lot of these couples, last year, they just wanted my time. And so if I'm able to be honest with my time and say, you know what, I don't have time to talk to you right now. However, I do want to devote the time to you. Let's schedule it for this time. So yeah, that's at least what's been going on, right?
Yeah. And what that makes me think of is, I think we can all agree that there's definitely still a stigma surrounding talking about mental health, and I think that needs to continue to be broken down. And I think that's really important for our industry and our community as a whole. I'm really big on silver linings. So for me, that's a big one from the pandemic. The pandemic has been a lot. And then the flood of business and inquiries or potentially lack thereof presently, has also been a lot during this reopening. This is something that myself and Becca Bloom of BB Events and ILEA NCC, we talk about this all the time and, want to continue to shout it from the rooftops. I think it's just vitally important that we all carve out that time necessary to separate from work and ground ourselves again, especially right now where everything has just gone from 0 to 100 in no time flat. Take that walk break, read a book, draw, write, work out, meditate, whatever you need to do for you to calm from the outer chaos, work that into your calendar, just like you would a weekly meeting. For me, the same goes for networking and fostering, relationships within our community. I literally schedule that into my calendar so I can make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks during this time. We all saw through the pandemic how much we need each other. So why would that miraculously change just because we're, exponentially busy again? If anything, we need each other more than ever now. So like with any relationship, that takes time, dedication, and intent to ensure that we don't lose what we all work so hard on fostering during the past 14 months now.
That was perfect. It's a perfect lead in. And I also just wanted to tap on that, this is where community comes into play. What you just shared, you just gave us a list of things that we can do, and that's something we can support one another with. And, Heather is that for me, often Heather from Encore, she's constantly reminding me to do things like that. So, that's what, when we think network, we think industry, we think, events, we think about our day job, but, really it's deeper than that because we are building relationships. And so it's, that personal connection is also in there. But like I said, you led right into the next question so perfectly. So Kristen, I'm going to ask you to start. And that is that in the chat, we actually got this question. Can you share networking tips? Maybe it's 4 was the question we asked, but whatever number that is for you, just some tips that you have. So as we get back to number 1, networking's never been super easy, right? You have to step outside your comfort zone for some of us who are introverts. And so getting back to, after a year of being virtually networked, getting back to in person, what are some tips you have for all of us, and what have you found works well for you? And again, I'll start with Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that we can go about it. I know everyone's kind of zoomed out, but at the same time, like a Zoom happy hour with a friend that isn't within driving distance is still a great way to go. I have a girlfriend, a planner who lives in Colorado, that we do a monthly FaceTime catch up, just so we can, kind of stay connected and see how each other is doing more than anything else. And then, talk about, what she has going on over there and how we can kind of collaborate from afar. And then, for those that are near you, see if you can get a monthly or a weekly walk or a coffee date in. Those are 2 of my favorites. We can all go out for drinks, which I'm all about as well, but there's almost something a little more special about going on a walk or going on a coffee date where it's, that really special one-on-one time. And then for those that are a little more shy, this is where I'm totally like Diana, and I love being able to connect people. It's like find that friend and, that extrovert networking friend, and, and talk to them and let them know like, hey, like I'm a little more shy. Like I can't really be out there in the world like you are. Like, who would you recommend? Like, who do you think I would jive with? And see if they can do a personal introduction for you. That's by far one of my favorite things to do, is just like find 2 people that I know would just love each other and then be able to make that personal introduction for them.
That's awesome. Madeline, I think you have,
but I feel like that was a couple of them.
yeah, no, perfect.
Yeah, that was kind of like mine. If you're going into like an ILEA event or, or any networking event, reaching out to the people that are on the board, a person that you feel comfortable chatting with, and say, hey, I really need like to meet 2 new photographers. I have to have, photographers for these upcoming proposals. And so Samantha, is there anyone you can, introduce me to? And she might say, yeah, have you met Alicia Parks yet? she's amazing. And she'll, introduce me in person. And I think that kind of in-person connection is so nice. And it makes it easier. It's an easier transition. You both know someone, and that makes it easier to talk to them. So
So with WCSEP, we have a member ambassador. And so that ambassador is usually there at the beginning, as people are coming in for that networking portion of the event. And their sole job is to connect the new members with veteran members and just start the conversation. And so, Shonda brought up a good question is, networking tips or what have you. I mean, I've always been a social butterfly. In fact, in high school, I was like the captain of the junior ambassador team, like total nerd alert, whatever, but I love meeting new people and learning about them and finding that one thing, like, what's your sign or what's your favorite color? And that's how I remember people. Sometimes I'm good with faces and names and such, but remembering something, specific about that person and unique, because we're all unique individuals, right? But it is hard. I know a lot of people that it's very hard. They come to a WCSEP meeting or WIPA or any of these groups and they kind of just, they get their name tag and they get their drink and they maybe just stand there because it is hard. There's a lot of people that are introverted. And when I see someone like that, I usually go up to them and, hey, I'm Jamie, would love to meet you, and kind of start the conversation. But I agree with Kristen too. I think that it's important to have the in-person and also, the video has been good for my networking over the last year because I can say to somebody, oh, okay, we're going to have a catch-up call. Would you mind being on video so that we can actually see each other? So I think that one other tip that I always that I do personally, well, recently, just in the last year because of the pandemic, is I go through my contacts in my phone and I pick one person and I try and reach out to that person that week. I pick one person a week and reach out to somebody that I haven't talked to in a really long time. And I've been able to talk to some former colleagues from, my hotel career that I haven't talked to in over 10 years. And it's been amazing and seeing where they land. So, those are some tips.
Okay, so right out of Diana's book, Networking for Dummies, I'll give you some silly networking tips that really, truly have worked for me. And you all might laugh, but oh well, here goes. I always tell people when you are on your way to a networking event to play some really good music that makes you want to dance because it's about your mindset. If you are nervous and white knuckling it and sweating, thinking about networking because you're an introvert, you're not going to go into the meeting feeling confident or good about yourself. So I say, first of all, get a new outfit or put on your favorite outfit or your favorite color, because when you look good, you feel good, and that all goes hand in hand, as well as listening to music, upbeat music. It puts you in a good mood. So then you walk in a little more confident from the get-go. A little liquid courage goes a long way, but not too much. I always limit it to 2 because you never know what you might say if you have the third one. So I always watch the drinking, but sometimes people are nervous. A little half a glass, couple sips of wines just loosens you up a little bit. And it's like Jamie said, if I see someone standing over in a corner with their drink, just sipping their little straw, like I don't know what to do, I go right up to them. And you know what? I can think of someone at NACE I did that with years ago, and every time I saw them, they thanked me. Diana, thank you so much for making me meet these people. I made so many connections. So then again, that's the connector. And I have so many little tips like this, but another one that I think is very important is not to always be with your friends. And I don't want to say clique because they're your friends. And you're excited to see them all the time, and you get in your little circles and you start talking about the same old thing, and you know each other and you're comfortable. I always say expand that circle, never close that circle. Make sure if you see someone wandering behind you, open up your circle, invite them in and introduce them to your friends. And then, move on to limit yourself to your friends, how much interaction you have. At WIPA, we always say for our board members, we shouldn't sit together. We should all sit at a separate table. The same thing with NACE, because you want to make sure that everybody's comfortable and they don't feel like it's cliquey. I cringe when I hear people say, I don't want to go to that organization meeting, it's very cliquey. So make sure you don't do that. Open your circles, be the connector, you know, play your favorite song, put on a cute outfit, little wine, you'll be good to go.
You're all so awesome. Those were great tips, especially since we didn't prepare for that question. So I'll throw it out to the group. If you have a question for these fabulous ladies, feel free to unmute and ask the question you might have. You can also drop it in the chat if you're being an introvert like I would be, but feel free to unmute and ask any question you might have if you'd like.
Don't all do it at once.
I'll go. I'll be the brave first one. Hi, I'm Rachel, and I just joined ILEA, and I'm brand new to this entire industry. But like Diana brought up first, I absolutely love connecting people. So because I don't know a ton of people in this industry, do you know, the groups that are here, ILEA and the other groups, do you ever do a whole group networking event, either virtually or in person? And is that like kind of the whole point of all of these groups? And when will that happen? Because I want to go.
Yeah. So we have, like earlier I mentioned that we've been able to kind of rely on each other more than ever in this last year. And with the leadership that is in each one of these organizations, everyone is very into collaborating more than ever before across all of these, across the organizations and across the years. And while to my knowledge, we haven't had a full event with where everyone is networking together, I do think this is a great jumping off point for us to kind of start those conversations, and maybe not everyone at once, because it would be really hard to organize, I think, in terms of being physically, you know, in person. But I do think that this is a great jumping off point for us, and that we would consider probably doing a virtual networking with all of the organizations together. We have done some networking like that in the past as well, but and there's also a lot of crossover too of membership. And Diana,
there is the one, is it global meeting? What is it called? You guys know what I'm talking about, where all the organizations.
Global meetings, industry day.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What is,
The GMID. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So because of you know, the last year being locked down, that didn't happen, but that is usually across the nation. All the organizations come together on the same day. And I know the last time we did it, the last time I remember was at Giant Stadium, and all the different organizations were there, and it was great. It's kind of hard when it's that big though. Was it Rachel that was asking that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it when it's that big, it's it's overwhelming to try to meet that many people. So I would just say, put on your networking hat and find out which organizations are starting to have in-person events, which I think everybody is starting in June. And just make that your job, is to go to all the different organization meetings and meet people. And you'll probably have better luck in smaller groups than a big, large group.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I think I saw Gaspar unmuted.
Yeah, hi everybody. I love what's going on right now. This actually think that at some point we should invite each other to our next live meeting, just as a sample. We meet monthly, and this would be, of course, up to my president, Jamie Lagoida there. But there is a great energy here. I guess a lot of it is just coming out of this COVID bubble we're all in, and seeing each other again. But I feel like I made some new friends today in the event world, And I think that's what makes us strong, is that we all refer to each other. And I think that's how we've been able to compete with other destinations, is that to the awe of the visitor, we recommend our competition.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I just wanted to say
Love
Yeah.
that.
No,
that's what
thank
we
you,
do.
Gaspar. I think that's fantastic because it's kind of, you know, it speaks to the core of WCSEP for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we definitely should invite the other groups for sure. That might be fun to do.
We'll talk
I
later.
agree. And for us too. Yes. Love that.
Yeah. Any
And
other
it's good to see
questions?
all of you. It's good to see all of you.
I know it's great to see everybody's faces soon in person, but
Agreed. I love it. So much positive energy. I live for that. This
Oh,
has been my whole
I know.
entire day. I love it.
Feels so good.
Bring it on. We need it.
awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm just going to say thank you, of course, to our panelists. It's been a wonderful conversation with these ladies. And, you know, when we started the conversation about this a couple of months ago, actually, you know, they were immediately all in because they, you know, truly believe in having a community and a strong network. And so I hope that that's what you heard today. And of course, all of them, I think, have dropped their info in chat or will, you know, more than happy to share additional tips and tricks for networking. And of course, when you're at our events, any of us are more than happy to network you around the event. So always feel free to reach out to one of these lovely ladies as we get back to in person, which it came up in chat. I know for ILEA, we have a small in person in June, and then we're working towards later programming, but I'll turn it back over to Madeline to close us out. But thank you again to our fabulous panelists today.
Thank you, Sam, for getting us all together.
Yes, thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, again, thank you so much to everyone speaking on this panel and for Samantha for organizing this, coming up with all of the amazing questions. Thank you to everyone that joined us today. I have to say on behalf of ILEA and everyone else here, we're so grateful that you were able to join us. On June 16th for ILEA Napa Sonoma, we do have an in-person event for the first time in forever. And that will be from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Suite D, which is the Girl in the Fig location, which is 21800 Shelville Road. You can find that information online. And it is a membership drive, so you'll be able to join and you can get that rebate right there. I will be writing checks right there. Anyway, thank you guys again. Call me, email me, instant message me on Instagram if you need me, but thank you guys so much. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Well.
Thank you.